Ladies and gentlemen, Verdine White. A true master of his craft. A scholar and a real badass whenever he placed his fingers on those bass strings. He has a mellow, slow, and smooth style of play, and is not an avid slap-style bass player. Qualities that make him unique, separating him from the rest of the pack. Away from that, his zeal and liveliness whenever he is on stage is unmatched. He sure dances up a storm. In fact, one of his diehards claims he put the letter E in the word energy. It is only fair that whenever we mention the best bassists of all time, his name should undoubtedly be beside the creme de la creme. Over to his personality, he is the most charming person you'll ever meet. An eloquent, down-to-earth gentleman who always gives credit where it's due, and perfect with his choice of words. His analytical brilliance in music is nothing you'll see in the modern generation of musical artists. He is well informed in matters music, from the business part, to the operations, to the marketing part, you name it. He oozes wisdom and knowledge just like his brother Maurice White. You would listen to him all day, with this precise diction, adding that wonderfully resonant baritone voice, not forgetting him being the cool cat he has always been. You would be irrational not to love him. To top it up, his discipline for all those years in a musical world where drugs, parties, fame, and money drove many down the pits is something that shouldn't be ignored. It shows how well he was brought up, and the strong concrete foundation of brotherhood and spirituality, earth, wind, and fire was built upon. We could go on and on, but this living legend, this gentleman, is unquestionably cut from a different cloth, and they don't make that fabric anymore. This is the story of Verdine Adams White. Born Verdine Adams Jr. on July 25, 1951 in Chicago, Illinois, to Edna, a teacher's aide and nurse, and Verdine Adams Sr., a doctor. He is the younger half-brother of the great Maurice White, a brother to twin sister Geraldine, drummer Fred White, tour manager Monte White, and 5 other siblings. His dad, Dr. Verdine Adams Sr., was a World War vet, a doctor, and an occasional saxophonist. He was well-read and was looked at as a prince in his community. His dream was to see Verdine Jr. take after him as a doctor, but this was not meant to be. As we all know of Chicago and its strong roots of music, it was an inevitable part of the culture. Verdine would grow up listening to jazz music from greats such as Miles Davis, John Coltrane, just to name a few, which over time influenced his passion for music. He was also influenced by Cleveland Eaton, the Beatles, and the Motown sound. His dad also sent him together with his brothers to Herbert Hoover Boys Club in Chicago to keep them busy after school. He proceeded to Crane High School, where his interest in music doubled after joining the orchestra class. He immediately fell in love with the double bass, and from then decided that that was what he was supposed to play. This was meant to be his destiny. His brothers, meanwhile, Maurice, Fred, and Monte, were into drums. Seeing how passionate he was with the bass, Maurice, being the big brother he was, decided to get him an upright bass, a guitar he still has to date. On top of this, with the directions of Maurice and his dad, he took private lessons from Roddy Vela of the Chicago Symphony Orchestra. He would also, over the weekends, start heading over to the legendary Chess Record Session bassist Louis Satterfield's house to study electric bass, to read for studio and learn how to be creative in music. He did this for 5 years non-stop, an experience that he holds close to his heart. He says everything he knows about bass guitar, he got it from this gentleman. Satterfield at that time was working with Maurice White at Chess Records and were very close due to the fact that they were both in a jazz group called the Pharaohs, a group that was previously known as the Jazzmen. Maurice knew how talented he was. On top of this, the fact that Verdine Sr., Maurice's stepdad, had welcomed him with open arms and had taken care of him as his own, he felt he had to reciprocate the kind gesture. To him, the least he could do was to convince his bandmate to mentor and teach his younger enthusiastic brother Verdine Jr., which Satterfield did wholeheartedly. With such strong supportive figures in the name of his smart, intelligent dad, a passionate big bro, and a talented mentor, there was no way Verdine Jr. would fail, and the results speak for themselves. Verdine would train bass for a minimum of 8 hours a day, juggling between school at Satterfield's and at the basement back at home together with his brothers. He literally took the quote, "It takes 10,000 hours of practice to become an expert at anything," personal. He proved that talent is not always born. It can be made. All it takes is passion and putting in the work to reach excellence. He graduated from Crane High School in 1969, and thereafter started performing at local jazz clubs in Chicago. It is also during this time that he got a 4-year fully paid scholarship at the American Conservatory of Music. Meanwhile, Maurice, who had earlier left chess and the Pharaohs in 1966 to join the Ramsey Lewis Trio as the group's drummer, wanted to fulfill his dream of forming his own band. He left the trio to join his 2 friends Wade Flemons and Don Whitehead, forming the Salty Peppers, a group which didn't live up to its expectations. When he moved to Los Angeles, he saw it fit to inject energy to the group by adding the youth, and that's when he called upon his younger brother Verdine. Skeptical at first, since joining Maurice would mean forfeiting his scholarship, Verdine finally agreed to move to LA, after Maurice promised he'd teach him everything he needed to know. At just a mere age of 18, vulnerable, moving to a different city, in a pretty small band, the odds of success were quite low, but he fully trusted his bigger brother. He always did. And true to his instincts, Maurice didn't disappoint. Earth, Wind, and Fire grew to become one of the greatest bands of all time, all because of a dream built on the foundation of trust, brotherhood, spirituality, and most importantly, abundant talent. Maurice really shaped his younger brother. Being 10 years his junior, with Maurice the only person he knew in LA, the big brother had to ensure his small brother felt safe under his wings, and never shy to express himself musically. And this is when an unusual thing happened. With the nod of their dad, Verdine Sr., Verdine adapted the name White to protect him and avoid a lot of explanations from those around, and that is still what we call him to date. The same would later happen to brothers Monte and drummer Fred. Maurice was respected, very respected, and to ensure this applied to his younger siblings in foreign land, this card had to be pulled to relieve the worries of their dad back home. Even though Maurice and Philip Bailey were the lead vocals in the band, the works of Verdine remain a standout. The darting, ascending rumble that opens Can't Hide Love, the nubby, attacking runs in Love's Holiday, the nimble, succinct riffs underpinning After the Love Has Gone. His handwriting on the masterpiece tracks are in capital letters. Verdine also left an impression on the up-tempo numbers too. Listen to him slash through Bejo interlude, making notes shiver and whine. Many bassists around will agree with me that he changed the world of bass, and he is the sole reason why some of them ventured into the art. With now over 5 decades passing since the group formed, and Sir Philip Bailey and Verdine still pushing the gospel, the energy and will is still seen and heard. White has won 6 and received 2 honorary Grammy Awards. He's been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame among many more accolades. Away from the band, back in 1978, White co-authored a book with his mentor Louis Satterfield, Playing the Bass Guitar. To show how thankful he is to the universe for using him as a vessel, he has involved himself in a number of philanthropy works. He is the co-founder and director of the Verdine White Foundation, which aims to provide musical education to underprivileged and gifted students. He is also the founder of the non-profit organization, the Verdine White Performing Arts Center, which encourages students to reach their fullest potential as artists and people, equipped with a well-rounded performing arts education and the confidence to take on whatever path they choose within the arts. He currently lives in Los Angeles with his wife Shelley Clark, who was once a member of R&B groups The Ikettes and Honeycomb. They married back in December 31st, 1980, and have been blessed with a son and a granddaughter. With all said and done, we do hope his story inspires generations to come, and we may hold the hands of upcoming and guide them in the right way, because it is at the foundation level that that they need us the most. That way, we will have done justice to this kind universe. As usual, do you have any fond memories of the band's live performance from the yesteryears? Are you one of those who was influenced by Verdine to play bass? Let's keep the comment section lively and positive. Also, with the group still active, be sure to support them as we relive those nostalgic moments.